For those who are interested in watchmaking, a watchmaking kit is probably a great idea to get started and get all the tools and parts you need to build your first watch without having to do all the research to find out what tools do I need, where do I get them, which ones are the best, which ones suck and which ones don't. You just buy the kit, you get everything you need, and you build the watch. And recently, as of making this video, NamokiMods sent me one of their watchmaking toolkits to have a look at the beginning of August. You know, just before they release it, I gave them some feedback on it. As far as I'm aware, it seems like what they sent me was the final thing. Nothing was added or taken out since they sent it to me. However, they did say that all the changes based on the feedback from reviewers and customers will be implemented in the next iteration of the toolkit. But as of this video, I don't know what those changes are. So here's the one that I built. I did mod it at the end, we'll get into that later, but yeah, they're nice sort of simple watches. You're not going to get a huge chunky diver with all kinds of extra things for the price of these kits. It's a bit more of a simple watch, but they do have a range of different parts and styles that you can buy, including one that looks really nice, a bit like a Rolex Explorer. So I mean, if I got to pick the one they sent, I would have picked that one, but we ended up with quite a nice little watch. So we'll take a look at the parts and then we'll take a look at the toolkit itself. I'll give my general impressions of the toolkit as of before the release. So when you see me looking at the toolkit, it was at the beginning of August when I sort of give a few ideas of what could be added to the toolkit. A spoiler for you is that generally I like this toolkit. It's quite nice. It's got most of the things you need. So if it makes life simpler for beginners getting into watch kits, I'm all for it. They sent this in to me, full disclosure here, free of charge. I didn't have to pay for it, and I'm not obligated to say anything about it. I'm just here to show it off in a video. They didn't actually ask me to make a video about this, but of course, you know, when I do a build, I like to film it and make a video about it so that I can tell you guys about it. And I mean, I think it's a really good idea. A watchmaking kit that has everything you need to get started. What a great idea. You know, I'm always happy to hear people in the comments that say that one of my videos inspired them to get into watchmaking and watch modding. So a kit that gets you started with all, if not most of the tools you need is a great idea, and I'm all for it. So we'll have a look at the parts that went into making this thing, and then I'll have a look at the toolkit and give my overview of it. So we've got here an NH35 with a white date disc on it. Oh my goodness. Do you know, I've seen these dials before, but I've never seen one in person. Gosh, look at the texture on that. I'm loving the texture on that. I like the subtle NamokiMods logo as well, just that sort of percentage symbol there. Very nice dial. We've got some 62 mass hands here, the modern ones. Like this container for them as well. This keeps them from moving around, and it hopefully helps them to stay a bit cleaner so they're not bumping into each other and scuffing each other. We've got a nice, what I would consider it looks like this might be a slim black caseback. That'll look quite nice actually. Sort of a contrast to the steel case. They've even sent a pre-cut stem. I love this because I really don't like sizing the stems. It's really tedious and annoying. So it's nice to have one that's pre-cut. We've got a very nice case here that already has a crystal and a bezel on it. This one doesn't use a chapter ring, so that's a plus. You don't have to mess with that. And I welcome not having to press in a crystal. Sometimes it just makes the build a lot easier when the case is pretty much assembled. We've got a nice coin edge crown on there as well. Also got a Caseback gasket for that. And then they've sent along one of these lovely 20mm, because that's a 20mm lug width case. Lovely 20mm brown leather strap. Look at that. I believe it says, yeah, look at that. You've got the Namoki logo sort of burned into the leather there. I like it. That's quite nice. I look forward to seeing what that looks like on the watch. I do have another leather strap that is 20mm, but it doesn't fit these chunkier spring bars. So we'll stick with this one for this build. So let's have a look at this toolkit. What have we got? We've got 3 screwdrivers here. These would be very useful for removing the screws to change the calendar plates on a watch. We've got 2 hand pullers here. You would put these either side to pull up the hands. I use one of these, but you'll notice this is quite thick, and sometimes getting underneath a hand that maybe you've pressed on too far down can be an issue with these. And these ones here are definitely much thinner. We've got some tweezers here. Not brass, but if you're careful enough, you won't scratch anything. We've got a dial protector here. This is a must. I use this for a multitude of things, and this looks like it's quite a nice thin dial protector. The one I've got is quite thick, so it usually gets in the way if you did want to lay it on the dial before pressing the hands on to protect the dial. Alternatively, you can also put it on the dial when you're pulling the hands off. This is a thinner one, which means it's less likely to get in the way, so that was a good choice there. We've got a Caseback tool. Now, I've got one of these, and let me tell you, the one time I used it, these things wobble around and it was just rubbish. So I don't use that. I've always just used this one. Simpler, sturdier, gets the job done. This looks like a nicer version of this. You just, if we get it out and have a look at it, you just rotate this thing in the middle here to move them closer together or further apart, and then you can twist the case back quite easily with this. So that's quite a nice change from this thing, because this is a cheaper one that this often comes loose and causes annoyance, shall we say. So we've got 3 hand pushers here, quite nice. So we've got plastic tips on these, different sizes. Those look to be very similar. So the difference with these seems to be the size of the hole. This one's got a much larger hole than this one. I know the lighting's not great. I have to work with the sun coming in through the window. And then this one here doesn't have a hole. It's more of an indentation. So that's nice. We've got hand pushers included there. We've got a spring bar tool. I never usually use these, but useful to have. We've got a piece of pegwood here. This is essential for when you're removing, say, the calendar plates, and you have to remove little metal plates. When you need to hold them down so they don't move around, using a piece of pegwood like this is useful because it doesn't scratch the metal and it doesn't leave any residue. Then it was stuffed in here. We have a piece of Rodico here. Not a very large amount of Rodico, actually. It's quite a small amount of Rodico, but again, if you're like a beginner, you're probably going to use this for your first watch. So this is, I assume, just an amount to get you started, and you'll buy more Rodico because you'll need it. Rodico is essential to watchmaking. Then we've got some finger cots here, very useful, especially again for your first build. There are 6 in here, and although I've gotten away with wearing just 1 on this finger and 1 on the thumb for each hand, it is much more useful to have 3. So these 2 fingers and your thumb on both hands just makes holding things a lot easier when you've got the extra finger with the finger cot on it. And then we've got an air puffer here as well. That's pretty good, actually. This is the one that I've got. I think it cost me like 5 or 6 quid on eBay. This one's got a hole in the top to let the air back in. Let me see. Yeah. It doesn't hold as much air as this one because it's not as large, but it does give out quite a hefty gust of air there. So that's going to be great for getting dust and particles off the dial and any other parts that maybe from out of the case as well. In the beginnings of my channel, I used to use compressed or condensed cans of air, and although they're really good, if you hold them too much at an angle, the liquid will come out and you can dirty up a case with that, and then it's annoying to have to clean it off. These things are just really useful because you don't have to keep buying more cans of air. You can just, it's going to be more than enough to get the dust off. Yeah, not too bad, not too shabby. And then last but not least, we've got this is one of those case holding tools. You would lock the case in between this thing here. You just rotate this to tighten it up, and then you can, you put it in upside down so that you could take your various tools and tighten the case back or loosen it. We'll be doing that with this. So with this build today, I'm going to be using this toolkit here. The only thing I would say that perhaps is missing, but it depends on why you're buying this toolkit. You might get the toolkit from NamokiMods and you're working on other watches, so you wouldn't need a Seiko movement holder, but I would say it might not be such a terrible thing to include one of these movement holders, even if it's a plastic one or something less robust than this brass one. This was like 20 quid. I got this on eBay a few years ago. Because obviously one of the main tools you're going to be using to work on your watch is the thing to hold the movement. So I would say if you can, NamokiMods, definitely include one of these, although they do sell these anyway, so you can buy this separately should you need one, which you will. If you're going to work on a Seiko build, you will need one. I will be using this for the build, obviously. So yeah, there's your overview of the toolkit they've got here. It's not a bad little thing. I would say that perhaps they should include one of these as well, because this is a really good thing for beginners, but these are more versatile. You can hit limitations with these, like I said, because of the thickness of these, whereas these ones here, these do the job across the board, so I can see why they've included these. One other thing I would say, that it might not be such a bad idea to include one of these, because I've bought many bracelets and they always come with one of these to size the links. You know, you just screw this and it just pushes the pins out, whether it be push pins or pins and collars. And many Seiko watches have pins and collars. So given that whenever I buy a bracelet, they literally throw this in for free. I've got several of these. They're everywhere. I can't imagine it would be at much extra cost for NamokiMods to include one of these in here. And as you can see, there's even a spot for one, although it's a bit stretchy. I suppose I could just put this in here. Let's pick that up. And then just slot that in there. See, there's a place for it. You could totally include one of these, so that would be my recommendation anyway. One of these and one of these. But not a bad little toolkit. You've definitely got the essentials here for putting on hands and getting rid of particles, protecting the dial, the Caseback. You've got peg wood for holding things in place, Rodico, again, essential. Oh yeah, before I forget, this one was put in the package after the fact, so it wasn't in the case initially. A bezel pry tool. Now, I haven't really had much experience with these kinds, this sort of like curved knife shape one, but when I tried to use it, I just did a quick test to see if I could pop a bezel off with this, and I found it quite difficult to get this underneath a bezel compared to this thing that I've got. You know, you've got more leverage and a larger base to press on, and I mean, I had to modify this one. I've actually filed it down to make that tip even thinner. It makes getting bezels off really easy, and this looks like it has quite a chunky sort of tip. But if you've used one like this, let me know your experience of these. But yeah, that is also included in this toolkit. This is a good little kit, I think, if you're just getting your feet wet for making watches, you know, just sort of trying it out. This is a good little toolkit, especially if you're coming to somewhere like NamokiMods and you just want to order all your parts in one place and just get one package with everything you need, tools included. This is a great idea. So let's move all this to one side. I'll set up the cameras for the shot, and I will put these parts together inside this case and make a pretty cool watch. Look at that piece on there. I'm just going to start by giving this a wipe, because I do leave it out and it gets dust on it. This isn't even a watchmaker's mat. This is a soldering mat. Put these on. Oh my gosh, don't you dare. Just pissed off. Last thing I want is a speck on here. Let's put that there. Make sure we're focused on it. I'm attempting to run two cameras here. We've got a new camera here that's just a webcam, but it does do 4K and it looks pretty decent. It's certainly good for cropping in on things like this. And obviously got the original camera here as well for the wide shot, so that hopefully you can just, you know, I can make the videos more interesting by occasionally cutting to a wide shot. And of course this camera doesn't look as good as that one, but I will color grade this to hopefully match it. Right, so first things first, let's get the, there we are. Careful. Let's get the movement. Let's make sure that it works. Yeah, that's ticking away. Yeah, that seems fine. Let's check the natural day change. Yep, just fine. Let's get the dial and put it on here. So this dial here, this NamokiMods dial, has 2 sets of dial feet on it, and you remove the set that you don't need, but that way you can choose to have it on a 3.8 o'clock crown position or a 3 o'clock crown position. And since this case here is a 3 o'clock crown position, I will remove the necessary feet. So you can see 4 dial feet here. Now the dial feet for the 3 o'clock crown position, when the date window is on this side, you've got the dial facing face down. The 3 o'clock crown position dial feet is this one and this one. So the top one up here and the bottom one down here. So these are the ones we'll be keeping. And the ones for the 3.8 o'clock crown position are this and this. The bottom and the top. So it's reversed. So we're going to remove these 2 feet here. There we are. That's one. There's another. Now, that hasn't come off completely cleanly. There are little bits left there. So I'm just going to use this file to file down the remains of that. It will scuff the back of the dial a bit, but you'll never see it. Yeah, hopefully that's enough. So we'll put this to one side. We'll get the Rodico out. That is good and stuck in there, isn't it? Flippin' heck. That is tacky Rodico. It's very, very tacky. Okay. Just going to make a little tip on there so that we can pick up this stuff to clean it. Yeah, might have to go at that again. I can still see some remnants of a stump. Should be fine. If I have to take more off, I'll take more off. And we're just going to put the feet in this hole here and this hole here. One. Well, that's 2. Look at that. I've taken off the correct feet for now. Yeah, looking pretty good. Get that air off there. Any particles that have attached themselves to it. That is a nice clean dial. Okay, so we've got these 62 mass ands here. Let's put these on. I will use the same Rodico, but I will use a different corner to pick up the hands. So that doesn't want to come out. That's fine. You just give it a nudge here. There we are. And just very gently stuck down. There we are, yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Could also use the pegwood to do this, but I'm going to do it with this. Because it's plastic and it won't scratch it anyway. And that fits on nicely. Down on there. have a look. Needs to be pressed down just a little bit more forward. This is actually pretty advantageous when you think about it. I've pushed that on just a smidge too far. At least I think I have. It's probably just fine, but it's probably a good example to show you. I'm going to use one of these bags that I just got one of the parts out of, and I'm just going to place it over the top. And then to remove the hand, I'm going to use these pullers here. And I'm just going to get underneath the hand and just lift it off. Look at that. Nice and easy. The bag protects the hands. These are pretty good little things. I like these. And then we're just going to get the Rodico. Grab that. I'm going to place it down again because I want to do the date change again. There we are. Okay. There we are. Put that down. You don't even have to press hard, look. There we are, that's on there. That's better. I can press it on. That's already shifted, look. That's better. How are we doing? Pretty good. Yeah, they definitely don't interfere with each other. That's good. It's aligned at the 6 o'clock for the most part. Ticks over 4 minutes before 12. That's disappointing. I'm going to go with this blue one here because it doesn't have much of a recess in it. Grab the second hand. I can't see what I'm doing. I always have to get on my knees for this so that I can get close enough to see what I'm doing. Okay. I think we've got it on the post. Gosh, I'm not keen on using that one. Which other one of these can I use? I'm thinking the largest and flattest one, which is the red one. I'm even going to use the side of it to sort of stop it from bending the hand downwards while we push it on. Let's give it a quick wipe. Let's make sure that works. Yeah, that's working. I'll wait until it goes around and then we'll check the spacing. So it looks like the second hand needs to be tilted upwards a bit because it is resting on the minute hand, and there is a wonderful trick to do that. We're going to use their dial protector to do it. I've shown this in some of my other videos, I think. Take the dial protector here and you just place it between the two hands there. So now it's underneath the second hand, it's between the two of them. Then I'm just going to tilt this upwards like this to just bend it gently. Gently does it. Now let's have a look at that now. Immediately, that's done it. Isn't that a cool thing, man? Put the hands on wrong, you can just bend it upwards a little bit, and you do it gently because you don't want a hard bend, otherwise you'll get a nasty mark that you'll never unsee. But a softer curve like that works perfectly. There's a bit more natural light. That's quite nice looking, isn't it? Make sure there's no stuff on it. Okay. Let's pop this inside the case. I want to take out the stem. In order to do that, we just put it in the movement holder upside down. Push the crown in, make sure that it's... yeah. Okay, that is definitely in. Then we're going to use the pegwood here to find the stem release thing is just here. So we're just going to press down on this. And then we can remove the stem nice and easy. So, I don't have one of those leather cushions, so I use a milk bottle lid. Just gently... there we are. Put that to one side. Now let's make sure there's nothing under the glass, because there may well be. Let's take the crown out, because we'll have to put that stem in. There we are, that's in. In fact, I'll put this down here so we don't smudge the glass too much. Okay. I like to use the hand pushers here to make sure that it's in the case by just gently pressing, because they're made of plastic, so they're not going to scratch anything. So the next thing I want to do is make sure that it's lined up. It should slot in. There's a little recess in the movement holder ring there that the thing by the crown tube will slot into. Okay, let's get the pre-sized stem. We'll do a test fit before I glue it to the crown. So you can use a jeweler's vise, pin vise, one of these. Might not be such a bad idea to include one of these in the toolkit. You know, there, you know, with the sizing of stems and such. I use this to hold the stems when I sand them down. Although equally, you can just use your pliers if you've got some. Grab the rest of the threads, because you're not going to go that far down, and just grip it really hard. And then you can screw it on even further. There we are. Right, let's see if that fits. There we are. Okay. So we can wind it. Set the date just fine. That's perfect. That screws down really nice. They've cut that to the exact length it needs to be. Look at that. That's a good fit. No, there's nothing under the glass there either. So I can remove this crown so that I can glue the stem in. Down, all that out. So there we are. Right, place this over here to one side and just put that over it to protect it from dust. Then I'm going to grab this with the pliers. Just remove this. There we are. I'll just use this as a little base for it. Place that down. If I can find it. Where's the stuff? Look at that. Cryonaut liquid metal. Yes, we'll put liquid metal on the stem. Okay, so we've got some 2-part epoxy resin here. I don't have any Loctite. This is all I've got. I've got this. Just put a little dab there. Not even going to use even 10% of that. That'd be perfect. Mix it together because I'm going to throw this away anyway. Grab the stem with the pliers. Drop it on the floor, holding it really firmly. And I'm just going to I know, sorry, that's not in focus there, but you can see there's a little dab there. Look, there's even a string coming off it. Screw it on. Screw that in. Put that screwing down, and now I'm just going to hold this really firmly and just tighten that down. There we are. Didn't let go of that. That is on. So there's your... There it is. Glued to it. Let's put the crown back in. There we are. Screw it down. There we are. That screws in nicely. It's so refreshing to have a stem scent that's cut to size already. Got some silicone grease, so we'll put this to one side for a moment. Come on, get in there. Get in there. There we are. Put that in there. Okay. We'll use the tweezers from the toolkit. Why not? Just grab this here. Ooh, these are quite robust feeling tweezers. These are better than the ones in my other kit. The ones in my other kit feel a bit cheaper and they bend easier. Oh, come on. Gosh, that's annoying the way that won't stay in there. Come on. Don't make me put more grease on you. Yeah, look at that. You can see the grease. Wipe that on my shirt. Why not? Reverse it to thread it in, and then we can do it in by hand. With the black against the steel, that's nice. Right, let's use our Caseback tool here. So we're just rotating this to move these two closer together. We'll also use the case holder from the toolkit, this thing. This is just exactly the same as my other one. So that's not going anywhere, that's nice and tight. So I've gotten it to this length here so that it will fit in these grooves around the Caseback here, and you just slot them in. And then rotate it. That's going in. That's screwing in quite nicely. That's that Caseback's tightening on nicely. There we are. I love the texture on that dial. Right. That's nice. I like this. I like this combination, this Caseback. Obviously, I'm a stickler for display Casebacks. It would be nice to have a display Caseback on here, but I do like this. I also love the radial brushing for the Casebacks. That's nice. I know that's sort of a product of just the way they're made and machined, but that is nice. Okay. One. I'm so amazed that the wide shot camera has been going for 74 minutes and it hasn't overheated. I really do hope that it's still set to 4K. Oh well, if I have to put this video up in 1080p, that's what I'll do. There we are. One. That's one side because the strap has got them built into it. I'm pretty sure this one goes on the bottom. There you are, there's one. Look at that. This leather bracelet here has the little easy spring bar things. That's very cool. I like that. Watch this. You just go like this. There we are. That is on. Yeah. Look at that. Let's zoom out again. With this strap, they do send an extra loop that I can put on here. I'll have to take it off to do that, so that I can get that excess. So yeah, that's pretty good. They even send a little loop there. So here's the build as it stands with all the bundled parts, with what I think is called a Sakura dial with that texturing across it. It's a really beautiful dial. I do like the texture on it, and I quite like the subtlety of the Namoki logo. It's not overbearing. It doesn't look ridiculous. It's not trying to be a Seiko logo. It's just, you know, simple, polished logo, quite nice. And the loom as well. The loom on the hands and the dial match quite nicely. The dial is nicely loomed, nice and bright. I don't know if I did a loom shot of the dial. The case is nice as well. It's got some, you know, brushing and polishing on it. I especially like the fact that the top of the bezel has some nice linear brushing on it. Kind of reminds me of the Grand Seikos a little bit, which is nice. It's all quite nice. It's a nice little case. Sapphire crystal on there as well, and the Caseback as well is quite nice. It's just a very with this one in particular that I've got is a low profile plain metallic Caseback, but in black with I'm sure that's just a product of the machining, but it's got a nice sort of radial brushing on there, which looks cool. The strap they sent is also quite nice. It's a simple sort of light brown leather strap with some white threading on it, and it does come with the extra loop to hold any of the slack if you've got a smaller wrist like I do. And although I'm not someone who likes leather straps, I just prefer a sized up bracelet with a deployment clasp on it, for it just makes it easier and quicker to put on. I just like the look. It's nice and comfortable to wear on wrist, so I can't fault that. It is a nice leather strap. Anyway, now that we know what the bundled parts look like, let's mod it. Remember, it's the 11th you're aligning it to. Tell you what though, I'd love to have one of those little drill things that you can use to bore a very thin hole in the back of the dial to replace the dial feet, where you scrape away a large sort of circle and then you can glue or even solder in new dial feet. Because although I'd love to do that for swapping dial feet positions from like 3 o'clock to 3.8 o'clock, it's a lot harder to, I feel like I wouldn't get the positioning precise enough, so I would install dial feet in the wrong place and the dial wouldn't align correctly. Whereas when you're just replacing existing dial feet, you already have the exact spot, you know where to drill. I'm going to be using this lovely grey 62 mass dial. Finally got a use for it. I just found it to be too grey for the other build, but I think this will look nice in this little watch. We can give it a little nudge into position. And there's no chapter ring to align this to, so this should be a bit easier. So what I'm doing here is making sure the section in the center is as centered on the hole in the dial as possible, while making sure that the number is correctly centered as well. See, the dial dots are very sort of springy. So if you're going to push something, it'll spring right back. Gosh, these dial dots are far springier than previous ones. Oh, well, that's on. Unfortunately, those dial dots that I literally just put on are too thick, so they raise up the dial, causing the hour hand, when pressed on properly, to be a little too close to the dial. So I'm going to use these M3 ones instead. I couldn't find the M3 one that I'd already cut into, and I really didn't want to cut into a new strip, but I'm going to have to because those other dial dots are no good. I'm going to skip showing these going on again, since we know how to put dial dots on. We've literally just watched me do it, and these ones are really temperamental when coming off the backing anyway, so let's skip to me putting the hands on. Okay. Does take over. You can cheat when you're using dial dots, can't you? You can move the dial to match the hands. Oh, I shouldn't find that so funny. Maybe I should. Good. Good enough. When are you going to tick over? Oh, 1 minute past. Okay. Second hand I find easier because, again, you don't have to align it with anything. You just have to get it on. Is on. First of all, let's make sure that it's working. Yeah. Well, we know it's on. It's working. Let's wait until that goes around and then we'll check the spacing. All right, let's have a look. Yeah, that's fine, although the hand does seem to be going upwards a little bit. Hopefully that doesn't conflict with the crystal. But I'm happy with the spacing this time. Nothing's going to scratch, even at the back here. That being said, I may try to tip the second hand forward. And in doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the old dial protector trick that I did earlier. Slot this between the minute hand and the second hand. And I'm just going to go like this. Just to tip it up. How have we done that? Oh, that looks good. Spacing at the back is nice now. Yes, the second hand is still tipped up just a little bit in the front, you can see there. But I'm happy with the spacing this time. Nothing is going to scuff anything. So, still works. Let's get it in the case. Yeah, got it. Okay, let's see if this conflicts with the crystal. And the top of the crystal needs a wipe. Well, it doesn't look like it conflicts. Lay that down. Make sure that it's in. Yeah, that's in. Just a bit of IPA to clean the crystal. Yeah, we're not having any problems. I mean, not with the gaps between those hands. That was pretty good. So I will set the time on this, because I'll wear it for a few days and see how it holds up. Have I put the hands on correctly? You know, that sort of thing. Or are they going to fall off? Sometimes you never know. Sometimes you don't want to put too much pressure on them. Yeah, that looks really nice with that 62 mass dial in there. So I'll tighten this down and then we'll pop this on. Yeah, gosh, that dial's really at home in this little case. Not a bad combination. If you do buy this kit and you want to go for an OEM dial instead of the... Although this is a gorgeous dial, isn't it? This is... I've seen some Seiko 5 dials that look like this with this texture. You could always go for one of the OEM dials. I really like that. Right, let's do this. This is so easy, this, because of this. This is a really nice band that they supply with it. There we are. That is in. Just open it so we can get a better look. Although I do love the red sort of chestnut color of this, I really love the more it's further to the yellow of the brown. This is a reddish brown, this is a yellow one. This is a nice strap, this one. I'll probably end up changing between these. Because the one thing I do feel is that the butterfly clasp is not as comfortable as this. It's just, you know, it's a lot easier. It's faster to put it on. Yeah. I've also got a NATO strap that I could try on here, but I'm not a huge fan of them. I'll tidy all this up, clear all this rubbish away, and we'll get a better look at this. So here's the final build with that lovely grey 62 mass dial matching those Namoki 62 mass hands very nicely. I think it's a smart little watch, and personally, although the Sakura dial is nice, I do prefer the look of this OEM sunburst dial. And this watch works nicely on a NATO strap too. Here's a couple of examples here. One green, which I think suits it quite well actually, especially if you were to wear a green shirt while having this on. And this one here, black and grey. So if you weren't keen on having a leather strap on this, you could throw a NATO on it to change it up a little bit. I think a grey NATO strap would probably look quite nice on this as well, but I don't have one on hand. You end up with a really nice little watch at the end of this. And like I said before, I think this whole thing is a really good idea. I just think the main issue with this toolkit is the lack of a movement holder included with the tool set. It's one of the most important tools you're going to need, since you need somewhere to put the movement while working on it, but you're just going to have to buy one separately. Unfortunately, NamokiMods do sell them separately, and we'll see if they add them into subsequent toolkits later down the line. All in all though, I've got to say, this is a great idea, and for those of you that want to get into watch modding or watchmaking or Seiko modding, a thing like this, a kit like this, just makes the watchmaking, watch modding or watch building hobby more accessible to people. So that's nice, that's a win in my book. It's also nice to see a bunch of designs to choose from, a bunch of different handsets and dial sets and different straps that you can have. I think the Rolex Explorer one even has custom end lugs that you can get that will attach onto an existing NamokiMods Oyster style bracelet. So you can actually have a bracelet on that one. And like I said before, that Rolex Explorer one is definitely my favourite of the bunch. If I could have picked the one they sent, I would have totally picked that one, because it's a very smart looking homage to a Explorer, and of course the Rolex Explorer is a very popular watch, and for good reason. But that being said, I think the watch that I've got here is a really smart looking little watch, especially with that grey 62 mass dial on there. Finally, I've got it in a case where it feels at home. Yeah, I've been wearing this quite a bit actually, in spite of all my other watches. A side tangent here, let me know in the comments if you are a watch collector. Do you have a whole bunch of watches that you don't wear? You want to wear them, but every time you open the watch box, another one catches your eye and you wear that one instead. How do you treat the watches in your collection? Do you rotate and wear every single one of them? Do you have some that you never wear? Let me know. But anyway, I've waffled on enough here, so let me cap things off. These watchmaking kits are a really good idea. Again, it just makes the watch modding, making hobby a bit more accessible to people, where you don't have to go looking around for everything. It's just all in one place, and you know that the parts you're getting are all compatible with each other. There's nothing worse than buying all the parts you need for a build and then finding out the bezel insert's wrong, or you've got the wrong movement, or something along those lines. But anyway, I think I've ended up with a pretty smart little watch here. I'm going to enjoy this one, especially nice to see that now my 62 mass dial is right at home in this little case. And let me know what you think. Is this watchmaking kit something that would help you, if you haven't already, get into the watch modding or watchmaking hobby? Thanks again to NamokiMods for sending out this kit. I enjoyed looking at it, and it was nice to see them sort of making something that, again, makes the watchmaking hobby more accessible to people. So that's going to do it for this one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.